just when you thought Hollywood couldn't go any lower, Skeleton Crew, basically the latest Star Wars TV show, apparently is in the gutter ratings wise. This comes from Cosmic Book News. So Skeleton Crew has worse Star Wars ratings on Disney Plus, lower than The Acolyte, according to.
So it has like ratings. Negative ratings. Does that mean there's people are like sending the show to Disney executives? That's how bad it is.
It didn't even make the charts, Tom.
Yeah. Like they're returning it. That's what I was trying. That was a bad joke. I'll go back and rewrite that. Damn it.
Yeah, so the bottom spot on Neilson's streaming originals list belongs to the Great British Baking Show with 382 million minutes views. Since Skeleton Crew didn't make the list, its total top viewership was below 800 or 382 million minutes, meaning that the average per episode, because it's about 30 minutes per episode, was under 191 minutes per episode. The Acolyte also premiered its first 2 episodes in one night and made the Neilson ratings with 488 million minutes viewed, averaging 244 million per episode. Andor premiered with its first 3 episodes and made the list with 642 million minutes, averaging 208. And guys, I don't know about you. I know that we covered Skeleton Crew here on the show, but after the first 2 episodes, I just didn't care. And I haven't been watching it. And I think a lot of people have been following that model where like they checked out the first 2 episodes when it was released and they're like, this is dumb and we hate Star Wars and we just don't care anymore. And so like, I'm not surprised that the ratings for Skeleton Crew are worse. It's almost like the Solo effect, right? Or like, I should say the Last Jedi effect, where Solo came out after the Last Jedi and everyone hated the Last Jedi so much that they didn't show up for Solo pretty much. But Odin, I want to throw this to you. So, it's kind of weird to gauge the level of success of a streaming, like straight to streaming like show. But what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, and that's why as you were reading those numbers, I thought, wow, this is why I still just hate how streaming numbers are reported, because it just is like, oh, okay, great. And what do I do with that? Because it depends on how your network and how your service is gauging, right, this information, which can be different. I know that Disney has been, quote, transparent with what they count as a, quote, view in any of the numbers that get reported, but it's just so complicated sometimes. But yeah, I think that when you have a bit of comparison, I think that's probably the best thing, right, to help, is to say, okay, well, how is this doing watch time wise versus other, Disney shows in the past? And I think that when, I think I mentioned this before, talking about the show, where the show, in my opinion, is not a terrible show. It's just a show where, honestly, I think the Star Wars part of it makes it not as interesting. It felt like, oh, this would have been an interesting show had it just been its own thing and been its own original story, instead of it being incorporated into Disney Star Wars somehow and trying to bring in characters and certain alien races and all that other extra stuff. Because overall, it's one of those shows where it's like you can turn it on, you can be unoffended by it, and you can just basically just mindlessly watch it, which is not a good recommendation of a show, by the way. It's like, it's one of those just mindless watch shows. Yeah, it's pretty much what it is. But it is, I think, just it's a once again sign about how far Disney has fallen, how especially they have just driven the Star Wars brand into the ground, where they have in a way a show that in any other time, right, had the stuff with the Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker and all that nonsense not happen, had the Acolyte not happened, you would have had a show that probably would have brought in, a fair or a decent amount of viewers. But now people are so checked out that even a show that is, again, not a good show, but even a show that's just marginally there can't even crack anything, right? And can't even do as well as some of the other shows, which also really aren't all that good. I know that you were a big fan of Andor, Mr. Kadish, but it's one of those things where if you're not really keeping up against a show even like that, I think that says a lot, because I think you'll even admit that no one was really watching Andor either.
Yeah.
Andor what?
People found it slow. And so like they just stopped watching. But that was a show where I feel like Disney should have done a binge model. They should have released all the episodes and let people like what, because it's basically like 3 movies essentially, right? But Tom, this is another example of like Lucasfilm trying to reach out to a different audience, in this case a younger audience, and just instead of catering to the hardcore audience that wants to see like, hey, I want some wars in my Star Wars and I want fucking Jedi and I want good versus evil, instead of giving the fans what they want, they keep trying to attract new fans at the cost of their current fan base. And now I feel like Star Wars has reached the Star Trek apathy phase, where it's gotten so bad. People, they're not even hate watching this stuff. They're just not watching it because they don't care anymore.
You know what got 3 generations of children turned on to Star Wars?
Star Wars. Right.
The original 3 films. That's all they needed. After that, I mean, it's just then from there on, like that was the problem as far as I'm concerned. Trying to get these new kids in here, fuck them. If they aren't going to come in under the original guys, like, look, if you don't like the original stuff, then get the hell out. Like, I've been dealing with the prequel kids for fucking 20 years now.
You're such a gatekeeper, Tom. My God,
I don't give a shit.
Oh, the prequel kids.
I'm a
really
keymaster.
good.
I'll show you the way, my friend.
Everyone loves the prequels. I love the prequels.
Oh,
You underestimate my power.
They suck.
You know, I'm so sick of this like romanticized history with the fucking prequels because of
I hate
Disney
sand.
Star Wars.
You don't like
Yes, Disney
sand.
Star Wars is bad, but so were the prequels. Sorry.
They were coarse,
they're all
rough,
bad.
irritating.
Gets in my taint. It's awful.
Look, kids got more important shit to do than Star Wars. Star Wars is so old hat. That would be like us when we were kids getting into Star Wars, getting into like the Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
That's what it would be
Flash
the equivalent
Gordon.
of
Yeah.
right now. Nobody gives a shit about Star Wars. Star Wars is your grandfather's fucking franchise. There's nothing they're going to be able to. Baby Yoda was it. That was the closest they're going to be able to do. And that just shows you how fleeting that is because little girls, there's a reason why Rainbow Bright, Strawberry Shortcake, all these things from when we were kids have not made a comeback. You want to know why? Because girls don't give a shit. They don't have the same attachment to things that we do when we were kids. You want to know why Barbie's so popular? Because Barbie can be anything. Barbie isn't anything. She is whatever the girls project onto her, and that's the way girls are. Boys, on the other hand, are completely different. If they're going to be into Star Wars, they're going to be into fucking Star Wars. From day one. Once they see Luke Skywalker for the first time, standing in front of that sun going, yeah, that's me. I want to get off this planet too and go do that stuff. That is what's missing from Star Wars anymore. And like you said, there's no wars in the stars, right? I haven't seen a war in a Star Wars since the prequels. Really, or Rogue One, I guess you could consider there was some war. But even the sequels trilogy didn't really have much Star Wars in it. All we saw was the last bits and pieces of what was the rebellion
Star
and what
Battle.
was the Empire. Yeah, it was more like Star Chase.
Star Chase, Star Battle.
Yeah, it was not really quite a fight. It was like a nudge and a chase and a move and a run and yeah.
I saw a really cool cavalry charge on the surface of a Star Destroyer. That was really
Palpatine's
Oh yeah, with
fleet-
horses.
Palpatine's
Star
fleet.
races.
Palpatine's entire fleet didn't know how to go up. That was like. That was
No,
it.
he had a whole fleet
The
just sitting there doing
gravitational pull
nothing.
of all those ships.
We can't look out the window and see where we're
Yeah.
at. We got to wait for our instruments to clear up. Yeah.
Oh, I thought of another one, a Star Skirmish. That's a show I want to see.
There was a few
Star-
skirmishes.
Star Fender Bender. Yeah.
Oh,
Brian,
there was a
now,
stampede by the Sporces. We forgot about that.
now, Brian, you watched, Skeleton Crew.
I did.
You gave it a pretty favorable review, but
Yeah.
why do you think it's failing to resonate and actually get ratings?
I gotta say, Tom's totally. I'm sorry, Odin's right. You don't need Star Wars. This show didn't need Star Wars. It could have just been on its own. It actually feels sort of forced when he's like, "Oh, I found a lightsaber." You're like,
Yeah.
"Cool." Lightsaber's totally unnecessary here. Even when he uses the Force, it's like not. It's just to use it.
Mm-hmm.
He's only using the Force to use the Force. There's no reason for it. He only found the lightsaber because it's a Star Wars thing. You can totally make this some random sci-fi adventure, and it would have done the same. I did enjoy it. My kids enjoyed it. Like, we actually liked it. There's nothing woke about it, nothing weird about it. But it's also not good. It's just sort of okay. And in this climate with Star Wars, like, okay is like the bar is so low for me. Okay is actually like good.
You can't
Is
you
it
can't
Han
put something
Solo?
out. You can't put something out in the Star Wars world that's just okay in this age of complete and total apathy towards the IP. It's just it's never going to resonate.
And
So,
that's the problem. Like, so
Yeah.
for me, it's like, oh, it's okay. And okay is great right now for me because everything else is really bad. Like, I had no interest in Andor. Acolyte was actively infuriated me. Skeleton Crew was actually sort of fun to watch. And I look forward to it. I soft look forward to every week with my kids watching an episode. It's not bad at all. It's not good or bad. It just sort of is. And I think Dutch is right. You can't be like halfway in. You can't be just okay when most of the fan base is so turned off to the franchise.
Well, Dutch, speaking of that, one of the big announcements here is how Disney is basically pulling back to like one Star Wars TV show a year, and then trying to get out like 1 or 2 movies a year and stuff like that. So they're drastically cutting back on Star Trek content. And the fact that Skeleton Crew is coming in under the ratings of the Acolyte, which got canceled, means that this show is going to get canceled. And the next one, so like we have Andor coming out, and then we have the second season of Ahsoka. And they just announced that the Hound from Game of Thrones is going to be, replacing the actor who died.
Oh, I didn't know that
in the previous season. Yeah.
Okay.
But Dave Filoni seems to be immune to the rating system because like he can basically take his pet projects and get them out in theaters and get them on TV. What do you think is going to be the future for Star Wars TV on Disney Plus?
I think it's just going to be, like you said, I think it's just going to be more of really mediocre to bad ratings. I don't think people really care anymore. I'm a little bit interested in the Ahsoka thing only because it's just a continuation of the Rebels story. And I honestly, I don't know if I'm even going to bother watching it. One of the nice things about not having to do this show anymore is I don't have to like pretend to watch stuff anymore. So it's going to be great. That stuff that I don't really give a shit or care about watching. I know.
No, I have to watch that garbage.
No, it's your turn, my friend. So, no, I don't see good things coming for Star Wars. Man, if I was in charge of Star Wars, if I was Kathleen Kennedy, I would retire tomorrow. I'd be done with it. And whoever would come in and take her place, they need to put like a 8 to 10 year moratorium on the whole franchise and just make it go away for a while. Make people, want to get that craving back for new Star Wars content, and then maybe restart it with a new trilogy in 2035 or something. So I don't know. But I mean, that's what I would do. I don't want to do that because, I'm getting older and I don't want to be 85 years old and going in to see a first new Star Wars movie in 20 years. But if that's what it takes, I guess that's what it takes. It is what it is. So.
All right. Well, Alex, I don't know if you know this or not, but friend of the Salty Nerd podcast, James Mangold, the guy who supports us more than anyone, he made a new movie.
Monetized.
Yes, he made a new movie. It's a Bob Dylan biopic.
Oh,
called The
yeah,
Complete
yeah.
Unknown. Yeah, I'm sure people will be rushing to the theaters to see that one. But so basically, he in his press tour got asked about his Star Wars movie. And for those of you who don't know, he's basically making a movie called Star Wars: Dawn of the Jedi. It's set 25,000 years before the events of Episode 4.
Because that makes sense.
And it's about the origins of the Jedi and the Force. And the reason that he gave that he's going to be going so far back in the past is because he doesn't want to be tied to any canon that he could possibly screw up. And
There's already a book about the Dawn of the Jedi.
Yeah, no, I was
There's
like,
already a book.
if you don't want to screw up canon, make a sequel as opposed to a prequel. But that didn't stop Rian Johnson from fucking up canon. So, I mean, what do I know? But Alex, what's your take on James Mangold basically saying that, like, oh, I don't want to be bound by any canon with my Star Wars. I just, like, why not just make a standalone fantasy adventure?
That just shows that he doesn't know jack shit about Star Wars is really all it is, because there's already books. There's already a history of the Jedi. It's already in print. You can go read the books. Star Wars Theory covers this in depth. Like every week he drops a video about the history of the Jedi. Like, these people are idiots. It goes back to Kathleen Kennedy saying that one time, well, the problem with Star Wars is
not canon. It's not canon.
There's not any source material to take from. Like, are you stupid? There's
There's
like 25 years of freaking backstory that you can take.
A lot of source material. Yeah.
It's like, are you not, even if you don't directly adapt it 100%, you can still freaking take the ideas from it, which I'm sure they're going to do. They're probably just going to rip off the current.
No, they're going to take the
iteration
ideas and
history
not give credit to the actual
Yeah.
author. That's what they're going to do. Like
The
they
same
have
thing they did with
already.
Timothy Zahn with the freaking,
Timothy Zahn,
you know,
right? Yeah.
the same exact thing. Like, yeah, we're gonna rip off some of the ideas from your awesome
Well,
books that everybody,
coincidentally,
universally, all people love. The true sequels to the Star Wars movies is the Timothy Zahn trilogy. But no, we're gonna steal some ideas and just that's it. It's so dumb and dead. And the reason why that stupid Goonies ripoff didn't make it is because Goonies sucks too, guys. Okay, kids in movies are terrible. Children in movies are always universally terrible.
You're wrong.
Anybody
wrong.
shocked that a Star Wars ripoff TV show about a bunch of idiot kids running around
You're wrong.
didn't do well. It's just fooling themselves. No, Star Wars is dead. It's a dead franchise. My kids don't even like it. And I made them watch the original trilogy when they were young. And I was like, hey guys, check this awesome thing out. And they were like, meh, Lord of the Rings is better. And I'm like, yeah, you're right.
My 4-year-old loves Star Wars, for the record.
Good for you. Good for you, Odin.
One of my kids likes Star Wars.
Only the original 3 has he actually seen, though.
Yeah,
my kids likes the original 3 and Clone Wars. She loved Clone Wars.
Yeah, but Alex,
my kids like Harry Potter. So
yeah, I have one kid like Star Wars, one kid like Harry Potter. That's the way it is.
What's with the hate boner for Goonies lately?
I know. I don't get it. I love
because it's just nostalgia.
Alex has always hated Goonies. He's very very consistent.
I'm the OG Goonies hater.
Yeah.
Those kids are better actors in that movie than a lot of adults are in movies today.
True that.
True enough.
But Alex, you know, James Mangold, he gets praised a lot because he made Logan. But he's
right.
Like I challenge the average moviegoer to actually
and
name,
that Ferrari movie too.
Look, you know, Steven Spielberg.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Tom, to that point, like he's made a lot of movies that people have seen, but you don't go to a movie because it's a James Mangold.
He's not a genre director. That's the problem.
You don't walk out of a movie saying like, oh, that was a James Mangold movie. So right. Alex, you know, like he made, you know, the latest Indiana Jones movie,
right?
And it sucked. It was bad.
Right.
Do you think that he's learned any lessons from that, or is he just going to continue to?
No, listen. You know, his activity, his directorial portfolio before Lucasfilm was pretty solid. You got Logan, you got Ford versus Ferrari, you got a couple like James Mangold can make a movie. He really can. But when he teams up with Lucasfilm, he just bends the knee and takes the paycheck, freaking sucks on the teat of Kathleen Kennedy, does whatever she wants him to do, and makes terrible movies. I don't even know if it's his fault. I think he's just the guy behind the camera. I think it's everybody else at Lucasfilm that it's like, yeah, we need this, and this check mark on all of your movies. And here's the basic layout for what you're going to make. And he's like, all right, fine. How much money am I making? Cool. All right.
Yeah, he's
like, that's all it is. That's all it is. It's not his movie. It's Lucasfilm's movie.
Yep.
Yeah, and you'd think
same's going to be true for whatever this nonsense that they're making, this Game of Thrones in Star Wars movie that they're going to end up making. That's all it's going to be.
Yeah, and you'd think that somebody who, you know, claims to be a writer and a great storyteller would learn a thing or two from Indiana Jones, because that movie was a bloated mess. I don't know about what you guys thought about it, but I was not a fan.
I put it in the same category as the Crystal Skull movie that we don't talk about.
I don't know what movie that is.
I don't know.
Exactly. You guys get it.
Crystal what?
I've never heard of it before.
Isn't that a vodka? That's a vodka, right?